It's Cassidy and Shayna back again, the ladies from Simply Surreal, here to give you our next top 5 tips of wedding planning.
Second part of the segment.
Part 2.
Yeah.
So
we previously had given you tips 1 through 5, and today we're here to give you tips 6 through 10. I can do math. Tips 6 through 10 in ways, some of the ways of taking away the stress and how to plan your wedding successfully.
And just other things that maybe you don't really think about, but having lots of experience, we want to cue you in on those, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So the 6th tip that we're going to be giving you today is to definitely pay close attention to your food and drink throughout the day. One of the things that a lot of guests will remember from your wedding is the food. And you don't really think about that, but it plays a huge role in any celebration, really. And those are things that somebody will remember. And so we suggest that you really put some time into checking caterers, maybe doing a tasting, not only checking and finding out about their food themselves, that in itself, but also their service, and if they have reputable service, because that plays a huge role in it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Making sure everything is running on time and warm, and the guests get served on time.
And even they treat your guests kindly, right?
Yes.
Too. You don't want horrible waitresses or
and
whatever.
we have heard of stories where people have had hired caterers and ended up having to order pizza because it just didn't work out. So definitely do your research with the caterers. Pay attention to the food and drink. You can even the menus that you pick, pay attention to that. What will appeal to your guests?
Right.
What also might go in with the your theme?
Yeah.
And what you can play off with that. So make it fun. Have fun with it. A lot of caterers these times, they have different cooking stations.
Which is really
like
fun.
A taco bar or a fry bar or something like that. Just make it fun, and people will enjoy that. They'll remember it.
Yeah, and that's something that makes them remember your wedding specially, and because it's like you. So we had a couple of brides that loved pizza. They always had pizza, so they did pizza, right? Like it doesn't have to be a fancy meal. Just make it.
Or even having like a food truck or something for the midnight lunch.
That's super fun.
It's just fun, cool ideas that will be memorable to your guests. But one of the things that we find we definitely like to tell our brides is that pay attention to the food and drink for your bridal party as well throughout the day. You guys are going to be so busy, probably a little stressed in the morning, so you don't necessarily eat. We always suggest for our brides that in between the ceremony and the reception, when they do photos, that they make sure that there's food and water, not just drinks, but food and water in the limo or in the vehicles there, so that you and your
for during photos.
That you and your bridal party will be able to last the rest of the day.
Yeah, because it is important, you need food, but
it's important to be there.
Something you forget to, you kind of don't think about, and then the day of you're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving.
I'm so hungry.
And you need that for the rest of the night.
So that one, make sure to pay attention to the food and drink would be number 6.
Number 7 is think about timing. It's hard to kind of plan a wedding for you and for everybody, and I know there's so many things that have to be done in that day, but just try and keep in mind it's hard when your guests have too much time in between the ceremony and the reception, or not enough time.
Especially if you have too much time, when you have out-of-town guests and they're not from here, if you have too much time from the ceremony, or maybe you have like a wedding just outside of Lethbridge or something like that, sometimes there's nothing to do. And so if your guests are coming out of town and they don't know where they're going or they don't know what to do, it leaves them feeling really left out, and kind of that sort of a feeling in between is not really a nice feeling for the guests.
No, it's tricky though, because we know you want to do photos in between, right? So and most photographers are pretty fast, but if you have lots of family, it can be really long. But you also want to make sure that you have enough time that you can have some downtime before the reception, which we've found is
and that's so important too, because as a bride, especially as the bride and groom, you go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next throughout the day, and you're constantly being rushed. But especially in between the ceremony and the reception, or just before the ceremony, take some time to just breathe and really take a lot time to be able to take in the day, because this is your day and you won't ever get this back again.
No.
So take that time and make time, like actually schedule time to just breathe.
Yeah, and have time with your bridal party, and make sure you eat too.
Yes, and possibly your new husband and new wife. Our 8th tip is to not be afraid to ask questions. This is really, really important because a lot of times coming into this, if you've never planned a wedding before, you don't really know what you're allowed to ask, what you can ask, or sometimes don't even know what to ask. And so what we suggest is if you're going to meet new vendors, make a list of questions, certain things, and you can research this online as well, different questions that you should ask different vendors. But there's lots of things in contracts, timing with photographers, timing with vendors or venues or anything like that. Those things you may not be completely clear on, and it's really important to get that knowledge and to understand that. And as well, you can always ask for discounts, or if you don't ask, you're never going to know. And you're not really missing out on anything there just by asking. You can save some money. So ask questions like that.
Yeah, just go in and they don't mind answering the questions. If it's not something they can say, then they won't say it, right? But you just want to make sure that everything's understood and everything's covered. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Our 9th goal is kind of a very important one. We always like to say to our brides, it's one day. Don't sacrifice your relationships for the planning of this one day. So, we've had there's lots of family dynamics involved in weddings and all of that.
We always say that there is family dynamics
everywhere,
step families and half families and all of these things these days that it does take there's emotions involved in all of that. And so when it comes to a wedding, weddings tend to bring all of that out and bring it all up for everybody. And so when you're mixing people from different parts of your family in, it can cause drama or it can cause stress. Just keep in mind, and that's one of the biggest things we can't stress enough, is to keep in mind that this is just that day.
One day.
And you have these family and these relationships long after that, hopefully, long after that. So don't sacrifice those. That we said that the color of the napkins are not as important as your relationship with your mom.
Right? There's little things.
Or
too,
where people sit, or where you're who's walking who down the aisle, or things like that can all kind of cause. But what we suggest is make sure to communicate with your family.
And early. If you tell them this is what, and set out clear expectations, and just this is what I need you to do, this is what I don't need you, that's not what I need on my day, like I don't expect that of you. Just be really open from the beginning. We find that that's the easiest thing and the best way to deal with any family dynamics. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And our 10th tip, weddings can be very stressful.
And overwhelming.
So we definitely suggest right from the beginning, delegate. Figure out what is most important to you, what you really want to deal with and what you want to be hands-on with. And then the rest of it, delegate it to people. You've got bridal parties and family members who are most likely more than happy to help you. So I'm a bit of a control freak myself, so I understand if it's hard, but
yeah, we aren't at all.
But if you can just let a little bit of that out, you'll be a lot less stressed. Have a lot more time for yourself. And if you don't feel like you want to pass that on to family members and it's in your budget,
hire professionals.
You can hire a professional, and wedding planners will take all of that stress away from you if you work with them, especially right from the beginning. With a full service package. They can help you with all the small details. And right up to the end of it, especially those last few weeks, you're stressing about all of the little details. Did you forget anything? Did you call this person? Did you call that person? And that's what wedding planners are also supposed to help
And also,
with.
Some of you might not know there is such thing as just coordination. And we do that, and a few other planners in Lethbridge, I think, do that, where you just come in the last little bit before your wedding and take over, so you don't have to, you've planned everything, it's your wedding, it's how you wanted, you did awesome, and then you just want to say, here, make sure it goes.
And have one person, one person taking care of all of the details. And so that you're not kind of chasing down people as well.
Exactly.
But that it is important to delegate and to get help with it. Because it is, especially if you work full time or you're a mom or anything like that, that takes away your time, or you just live, really.
Planning a wedding's a lot.
It's a lot. So make sure to delegate and get some help. So our final 5 tips, the 6th one is to pay attention and put some effort into the food and drinks, and make sure to get food and drinks for you and your wedding party as well.
Throughout the day, yeah. And our 7th one is think about timing for you and your guests. Try and get everything in, but make sure you schedule some downtime for yourself as well.
And our 8th is don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions to every vendor that you meet.
Yeah, definitely. And number 9 is it's one day. Don't sacrifice relationships for the planning of one day. Remember, just communicate with your family members and friends too. We have sometimes friends issues as well. Early, and the color of the napkins isn't that important.
And our 10th tip and final tip is to figure out what is most important to you, focus on that, and then delegate. All right, so that's the 10 tips for, between the first segment and this segment that we have for you for wedding tips. If you'd like to hear more or get some more information on wedding planning, feel free to contact us. Look us up online. We do have a Facebook page and Instagram at Simply Surreal Events.
Or you can email either of us, Cassidy at simplysurrealevents.com or Shane at simplysurrealevents.com.
Excellent. Take care.
Thanks.